Hello and welcome. We are here for Microsoft Excel intermediate training tips or intermediate tips to train you on. Our agenda for today is going to be drop-down list, the go-to special feature. We're going to talk about some conditional formatting, text to column, and then quick analysis. If you've been on a training with me before, you know that I'm going to go off this PowerPoint and we're going to go and actually, we're going to work in real data. So I have a spreadsheet that I just put together for purposes of this training. So that's what we're going to use. I want to put it here so I am not looking sideways at all of you. All righty. Here is our spreadsheet, and as we know, drop downs was going to be the first thing that we'd know. I'm getting a no spreadsheet. Love the visual, the nonverbals. Thank you. We got a spreadsheet now? All right, thank you. Okay, so drop down lists. Drop down lists are really cool for people to use if you are looking for your data to have some type of consistency. So in our day-to-day operations, where could a drop-down list be helpful for us? And so I have a couple of examples here. I just made up this data. This is just stuff. This is no particular file that you would have to run. This is just data for me to go ahead and demonstrate what we're going to do. So when we talk about drop-down lists, there's really two ways that you can do it. And it's going to be one of those things you got to think about where you want it to live. So one of the things that you can do with drop-down list, if you are going to have a lot of drop-down list, I would recommend putting them on what I call, if you see down here at the bottom, these are our sheets. I have a sheet called key. I like to put my key sheet either at the front or the end of my Excel workbook. That's going to be where anybody can come and see, hey, what does that color coding mean? Or where is that, right? They would call a drop-down list a pick list. Where did she build that pick list, right? So I always keep all of that on my key. In order to go ahead and do a drop-down list using the key, a key sheet, you're going to just have a column with a header on it. For me, this is school list. And then you would just type your school name, right? I could go here, I could keep going and say Southwestern City Schools, right? And just keep adding to my list. This is just where it lives. I want my drop down to live here under column J, enrollment school. So I built it on my key, but I want it to live on this sheet. So I want to go ahead and put my cursor in the cell, in this case, J2, where I want that drop-down list to live. Now, if you were with me for the Microsoft training, the Microsoft Word training, you know that the tabs across the top in Microsoft are similar in any application that you're in. So whether you're in PowerPoint, Excel, Word, Access, all of those, Microsoft has kept their tabs pretty consistent. So I would know then that if I'm going to do a drop-down list, I need to go to my Data tab. And from my Data tab, I want to go to Data Validation. When you click Data Validation, you're going to get these, it's going to land on the settings page, which is where we're going to be for a drop-down list. And our criteria has a drop-down. And in here, there are other ones that you can build out for data validation. Today, we are only going to talk about list, but please know that there are other ones. And if there's other ones that you want me to train on, please let me know about those as well. But I'm going to click list. And some things that I want you to pay attention to. First of all, the very one that's really important to me is this ignore blank. So if I have blank fields, it's not going to pay attention to it. That's what I want it to do because there's no data in there. And then you want to list where do you want this drop down to live? And I like them to just live in a cell. And so I had mine in J2. Now we have to go and decide what we want in there. So the first thing, because this one is one that we are setting off of another sheet that I called key, I have to go to my source. When you click on the source button, you can either start typing the sheet name, right, with the absolute reference, and then you put in key. But the quickest way to do that is to hit this up arrow. It's going to allow you to self-select. So I'm going to go, let me just pick. And don't freak out. It's going to come up here and look a little bit smaller. It's cool. Stay with me. Once it goes to this space, you want to come over to where your data lives. Mine lives on the key. And you can still see that my drop-down window is still kind of hovered as I'm working in it. It hasn't grayed out yet. So when I go to this key, you can see up here, it the absolute reference of key. And then I'm going to say, click and drag. I am just clicking and dragging. I want all of these schools to be listed in my drop-down. So now how do I get back down over to that drop-down? Go right back over here where your arrow was, and all this is expanding this back out so you can see it. So I click it, and there is the full range. Now, when I click OK, when I go back to my key, nothing changes here. But when I go to my drop-down list, you can see now I have this little parrot. And every school name that was over on my key sheet, including the one that I added at the end, is here. And then you can just pick one. Okay. Now, I only have this in the first cell, but I need it to go down all of these cells. And I need that formula to be a pick list for every cell in this where there's data. So all you have to do is get to your right bottom edge and get your bolded cross or T, and you're going to click and drag that down. Another thing that you will notice is you get this little drop button here. We could have also done copy cells that way. We could have done a flash fill, which flash fill will take it up to the last point that you have data. So flash fill is not going to take it beyond row 23 because there's no data. But when I release that, now I can see in every single one of these, I now have a pick list. Okay, that's how you can build a drop-down list from another sheet. Let me show you how you can do it directly in the cell. So another thing that we might want people to do a pick list for so that we have consistency is grade level, right? Maybe some people will put 9 and some people will put 9th with a TH, but you want these just to be consistent for pulling data later. Again, you're just going to have your cursor in the cell that you want to put that pick list in. You're going to be under the data tab. You'll go to data validation. All is the same here. Oops, wrong one. Data validation. Everything is the same at this point. I don't want any value. I want to do a list. I still want to ignore blanks, and I want this to live in my cell. The difference here is I'm not going to go to another sheet and pick. I'm not going to come over here and pick anything. I'm going to manually tell the system what I want my list to be. Now for grades, in this case, it's very easy because I'm only going to do 8th through 12th grade. If I had 100 schools, of course, I would want to just pick that from a range. So I don't have to worry about missing a comma somewhere. Because if the comma is what separates the pick. And so if you miss a comma somewhere, it's going to mess up your data. So to manually enter your pick list, you just start typing and everything is divided with a comma, no spaces, and 12. When I click OK, and I come to my pick list, there's my pick list. Again, if I want to copy this, I can do get my cursor here and drag it down. And now that pick list is on every item. So let's quickly talk about what happens before we leave the list. What happens if you have to update that list? I want to show you there. We're going to stay on data, the data tab, and we're going to data validation. I recommend being at the first cell where that is, where that pick list is. So I would not be in line 5 right now. I want to be on row 2. When I'm there, I'm going to do my data validation. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, you know what? I also want to add an ND for our not determined students, right? We don't know their grade level yet. But when I add this ND, I am currently only adding it to the cell that I'm in. If I want to apply this to all of the other cells that I put this formula or this data validation in, I have to check this box. And you'll see behind the scenes here, it went ahead and highlighted the other cells, and it knows to add that ND at the end for all of these cells. If I wanted the ND to be at the beginning of the pick list, I would put it before the 8. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now I can come in here and see the ND has been added to all of these pick lists. The same thing holds true over here for when we went to a key. If I come in here and I add South High, I come back over to my drop down and I want to change some data validation. And I went ahead and added that new line so I can go here and I can just expand this to include South High School. I go back over to my sheet and mark the apply it to everything and then click OK. So, oops. You may not use this. Oh, gotcha. It didn't like my, oh, I keep adding and it doesn't like it. I'm just going to go repick my range. I'm going to delete all of this out. So I'm just picking again because I messed it up. There we go. It's picking everything. It's still applying all of the changes. And now when I come in here, South High School will be at the end on all of these. Okay. All right, that is our drop-down list. And now it's time for another fun poll. Please get ready. This is going to be one about drop-down list that we just did. 2 really quick questions for you. If you could fill out that poll. And while that poll is running, I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the Go to Special tab. All right. Everybody can see my Go to Special tab okay on the screen? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. So the go-to special. When we think about go-to special, a lot of times people will think of go-to, right? Go find, I love to find something that I can't look for. I use my find feature a lot. And so go-to is, I think, pretty basic, but we get to that kind of intermediate next level when we start talking about that go-to special. And so let's go ahead and get to our go-to special items. Your go-to is going to live on your home tab. When you come over all the way to the right, you're going to see that find and select. And when you do the drop down, you're going to see the go-to special. Now, if you miss the go-to special and you just hit go-to, no worries. You can still get the special by just clicking it here. So either way. But with our go-to special, I'm going to just go right there. It's going to open up this dialog box. Now, there's a couple of things that that we can look for in here. Again, thinking about how we look at data. Some of our data comes through like from an Infinite Campus download into Excel. And sometimes there's blank rows in there that you need to identify because you know that your data shouldn't have any blanks. So for example, we could use this go-to special and say, only find me blanks on this. And then it's going to go ahead and show within the data where you have blank cells. And then you could go from there and start filling in that data. That's one way that we can use the go-to special. Another go-to special that I like is to go to the formulas. I'm sorry, constraints, my bad. Go to the constraints, and then I want you to look for, I'm sorry, I want to turn off this gray I'm going to turn off my other go-to because it was throwing me off. When I go to constraints, for example, and I can say text, it is now going to go and show only the constraints that have text in them. Okay, so anything that has a blank is going to be grayed out. Anything that has a number, right, a numeric, they see these enrollment years because it has the dash, so it's catching those. Another one with the go-to special that I find helpful is for formulas. So if you've ever put a formula in a, I gotta come over here. If you've ever put a formula in a Excel spreadsheet and you want to find out if somebody overrode your formula. So for example, here in column E, I went ahead and put in a formula up here that said, hey, take the birthday of this student and give me their age based on today, right? So that's my formula. And so then every time somebody came in here and put in a new birth date, I just wanted the system to go ahead and tell me what their age is. But if I wanted to find out if anybody was in here just and wrote, like somebody went through and said, oh yeah, I can do the math real quick, they're 5. And instead of letting the system do it for you, we just went ahead and overrode that. This is really helpful when you have a spreadsheet with a lot of formulas in it to figure out where your formulas have been compromised. And so in here, I would, I forgot to tell you how I did that. Hit my there. When you go over to your go-to special, and again, I don't have to be in any certain cell in here because it's looking at the whole sheet. And all I did was pick formula. Now we could get more granular with this and say, look, tell me if they took out words or if they took out numbers. But for what I'm trying to show, I just want to see if they took my formula and altogether out. And so I just leave it defaulted and click OK. And what you're going to see is that these two columns or these two cells right here, 17 and 18 are not grayed out, which tells me that my formula is missing. And so then I can come here, click on that cell, and I can see instead of having a formula like the cell above it, this one has lost its formula, meaning somebody just came in and typed 5 instead of letting the system do the math. Now, if you needed to get that formula back, you can just go up to the cell above it and then get your bolded T in the bottom right corner and copy it down. And now you have the formula back in that cell. It's not in this cell. So again, I can just now copy, take it down. And now when I go and do my go-to special and look for formulas that have been compromised, I won't have any. One last really cool feature, and again, my data set I get is really small, but I want you to think about, actually there's 2 more things I want to throw you with this. I want you to think about pages and pages of data that you would sometimes get from an Excel download, for example. And maybe you're working on an Excel file where you are collaborating with others and you're using the comment feature. And if you're on a really, really big document, you don't want to have to figure out where all of those live. Guess what? On the go-to special, they have an option for where's comments? Oh gosh, it was the first one. It defaults on comments. So it will, when you open it up, it's going to default on comments, and then you're going to click OK. What it's going to do is it's going to start doing that gray function again to show you where you have comments within the sheet. And then from there, you can just hover, right? Guardian would like student to ride the bus today. Over here, we got a comment for the withdrawal paperwork has been uploaded. Go ahead and process the withdrawal. So this is an easy way to go and see where all the comments are on the sheet. One last tip for the go-to special is going to be what I call special characters. So what I did here in this enrollment grade, we have 8th grade, we have kindergarten through 10th grade, we have some IN and some PG. And I understand that 1st through 12th grade, that's pretty easy for me to understand. But when I start getting into preschool or some other special codes for enrollment, maybe I want those separated out. So what I can do, again, being on the home tab, going over to my find and select, when I go to special, this time I'm going to go ahead and put constraints. I'm going to put I'm going to keep text. Nope, I'm sorry, wrong one. Go to special. Not conditional. Oh, where are my comments? Constraints. I had this one practiced too. Oh, shucks. Well, I'm going to pause on that one because I just lost my train of thought. What I was trying to do was show you how you can copy the constraints. So if I came in here and I said, show me my blanks, I want something with data. I'm going to take out my formula here again so I can show you all what I was attempting to do. Because it's one thing to find this stuff, but it's another thing to know what are you going to do with it once you found it. And so if I went back to my example of formulas that were not in there, and then it showed these 2 lines, I can take any of this data now. I can say, yep, these were my 2 lines and it's for this parent. And then I can just copy it and put it wherever I want it to live. So it really is a quick way to find what you're looking for, to either visually know what you need to do or to quickly copy similar text. Okay, that is our go-to special. I'm putting up a poll. I know you're excited. All right, go to special, same poll as the drop-down list. Just wondering if that was easy to follow. I have a feeling I'm gonna get some no's because of that last piece, but I love your honesty. And then I wanna know if that's something that you're gonna use. That's gonna help me drive if this is something that more people would be interested in seeing. While that poll is moving forward, I'm gonna jump us over to my conditional formatting tab. Okay, on conditional formatting, some of these are going to be some similar functions for you, just different ways that you can do them. So for example, when we think about conditional formatting, I want you to think about formatting, right, with conditions, just like it says, conditional formatting. I want to make something in groups. That's going to talk about on your home tab, when you come over here to conditional formatting, this is where all of that is going to come through. Now, in previous Word trainings that I've done, we've talked about these kind of highlight the cell, the top bottom rules. You can do some data bars. I want to, for this intermediate level, I want to go into this new rule. And because it's going to give you a lot more options. And I wish I could make this window bigger for you, but I can't. But what I want to let you know here is you got some options to look for. The first one, format cells based on their value, only cells that contain a certain thing. We want values that are ranked below or above averages. We can look for duplicates, all kinds of things that you can do here. First one I want to do is show you how you can also look for blank cells in conditional formatting. So when I have my conditional new formatting rule open, I know that I want to look at a cell, and I know that it's going to contain something or not something in this case. So when I select from my rule type, you're going to see that the rule descriptions change. So when I'm up here on this top one, right, I get a very different set of rules than if I want to go to this rule type. So on this one, format a cell based on what I tell you with this criteria. Then you just go through your drop downs here. And for this example, I want to say, go look for any cells that are blank, okay? And then you're going to see it's going to take away any other information for me because there's a blank cell. Then what's going to happen? It's just going to look like this at this point. That's not really going to be a big eye opener for me, right? A visual clue real quick that I have a blank cell. We want to go over here to this format tab, and it's going to start pulling I would think of this as like your word processing functions. So under here, under the font, I could come in here and say, I want you to underline it with a double. I want you to strike through, and well, there's no data in there. And I want you to fill it with blue. Okay, so it's going to have a double strike through, a double underline and a fill of blue. When I click OK, it's going to now show me my new preview. If you don't like it, just go ahead and go back to your format and change it. But if you're good with the view, click OK. One really important thing to note about conditional formatting, it likes to know what you're talking about. It doesn't know how to do a conditional format off of an entire sheet. You have to give it some range. Let's go through that again. So I'm going to go ahead and do my format here. I want blue for my fill. And I want you to do, just in case there's any data, any words in there, double underline it. Oh, and I forgot to change this to blank. So it was giving me my error because I had nothing filled in here because I was trying to do it by a cell value, and I really just wanted to go look for blanks. I forgot to do that step. Click OK, and now finally look at the pretty blue blanks. Sometimes it takes us a minute, doesn't it? So that is one way that you can find your blanks there. Another cool one with the data validation. And again, you can also select your entire area by just doing this in the upper left corner. That selects your entire sheet. When I go under conditional formatting, new rule, I want to this time format any unique or duplicate values. Now, when you do that, that's an or, right? So then it's going to tell you which one do you want to work with. And I want to go ahead and find any duplicate values. Again, it's going to show you what your preview. So I would go to my format and I'm going to say, go ahead and bold and fill with this light green. This is what it's going to look like for any duplicate values that I have in this entire worksheet. There are my duplicate values. Now, that wasn't very useful for me, was it? Because Columbus City Schools obviously is going to be a duplicate because it's enrollment district. We'll have some birth years that are the same. So if you need to, oops, wrong one. If you need to go in and edit that rule, and and say, maybe look for unique values instead, you can do that. And this one, actually, we'll color the unique values orange. So let's talk about that unique value. When we see the unique value and we have an M right here, I have no idea why that is highlighted, because a unique value should be that value does not live anywhere else. If this was an H, that would make sense to me because there's no other H's in here. That's what your unique value should return for you. I also want to show, if you have a really big list and you need to divide out. So for example, today I'm going to be delivering yard signs to our seniors. And when they created that list, maybe they did it by last names, or they're going to do right A through BC or A through BA, and then they'll do BB through CA, right? Whatever it is. If you need to sort things out that way, you can do that again with conditional formatting under the Home tab. Going to conditional formatting, our new rule. And then this time, I want to go ahead and use format cells based on a constraint. So in here, or yeah, under format cells that contain. When I come down to this format only cells, I have this specific text. And then it's going to go, and keep in mind, I'm doing this now just for a name, but you could do this specific text could be, it doesn't have to be names. It could be dates. It could be ages, right? Because what you have next here is another drop down. For me, I want to do something that begins with. So if I needed to find all of the parents whose last name begin with C, I could, well, I'll go first name is Mary. Again, the formatting is important here because this is what it's going to look like, right? It's not going to give you a default format. And if what we're doing, I want you to think that conditional formatting is giving you that quick visual. And if you're not giving it any format to give you that, then it's not going to be a quick visual. So always have to go to format. This time we're going to go with yellow. And I'm going to put a orange border around it. I'm going to click OK, and this is what it's going to look like. I can click OK. Where are my Marys? Oh, gosh darn it. I always forget with conditional formatting. Don't be me. You have to be able to select data first. I always forget that piece. Once I have my data selected, then I can, it's just practice. I'm just practicing. Go back to new rule. This one, I want it to contain, this is my favorite one because I have the most control over what I want it to look for. Again, I'm going to go ahead and use specific text that I'm looking for. And I know that it begins with, and I'll stick with my first example, and I'll go, it starts with ST. I want to fill that with yellow, and I want a nice little border that is orange. I want it to go around the whole outline. Click OK. Now I have this orange outline, yellow fill. And you're going to start seeing people who have names that start with ST. Now, what you will notice is that we have STs over here. We have a Stephen. But we did not have a name, comma, then that. We just told them that starts with, okay? Had I done one that contains ST, which I can do by selecting all of my data first, go to my new rule, and instead of saying specific text starts with, I can keep it with containing, put in ST, format it. We'll fill these with gray. Click OK. Now you can see anywhere that has ST contained anywhere. So you have to really think about what you're looking for. Again, this is really good when you have large data sets. My behavior, the people who have to run behavior or attendance at the school buildings, I would start using some of these well, I wouldn't start. You can start using some of these conditional formattings to quickly get to some of the data you need to look at. Okay, here comes your poll. It's a new poll, and this one is going to be for conditional formatting. Yay! Oh, there it goes. And conditional formatting. I've launched the poll. While you all are taking my quick poll on conditional formatting, we're going to jump to text to column. All right, text to column. Where do I see this being really helpful for you all? Text to column. Again, when we're pulling reports, particularly out of Infinite Campus or maybe Who Knew It or some of our other programs that we use, remember they're pulling data that's based on how that data is stored. So what do I mean by that? A lot of times our student information, like our student names or our parent names, will come over similarly to how you see in column 8 here with the last name comma first name. But maybe you need to be able to do some different sorting and filtering, and you need to have these names divided out so that there is a last name column and a first name column. That's text to column. And there's a couple things we can do with this. The first one we're going to do is the guardian name. Now, the first thing that I like to do when you are doing text to column is make sure that you have the space for it to go from a text from one column to another. And currently, I don't have an open column for it to go into, so you have to insert your column so it can live in its new place. Simply, I have the I column highlighted, I right click and click enter, and then it gives me my other column. Now I can change this one to say last name, and this one to say first name. I'm going to go ahead and have my cursor in the column or in the cell where I want to start dividing out these names from full name to last name, new column, first name. And as you probably guessed, we're going to the data tab. And under the data tab, you're going to see text column. When you click text to column, it's going to again open up a dialog box for you to start giving the system some information. Right now, you can see that the only thing that my text to column is going to work with is that first cell. And I know I need this to happen for the entire cell. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel. And I'm going to just drop down and highlight the entire column and then go text to column. Now what you're going to see is we have this last name up here. So watch what happens because we're going to start defining some things. When you're going to stay up here on this delimited, because delimited basically just means that it's separated with a comma or a tab or some other character. That's all that means. And we know that ours is separated by a comma. So I'm going to stay there, and this is a wizard, so you're just going to go through the steps. It's giving you your visuals. I'm going to go ahead and click next. And then it's going to say, all right, so you got this data. What do you want me to do with it? And I was playing with this earlier. It's going to remember what your last commands were. And so the last time I had these, I'm going to go ahead and clear all of these out so that you can just see this from a clean view. When you come in here, you have to know what is separating my data most. And we know that it's a comma and a space, but the main separator is the comma. So if I come in here and just click comma, you're going to see that it's going to take the last name and divide it from the first name, but it's going to leave my last name column. It's going to leave it alone. And that's why I don't want to put the spaces in there, because the minute that I put spaces in there, it's going to divide out my last name and this one as well. I don't want spaces. I just want these to come across this way. Now, another way that you can do that, right, is to just not highlight the whole column and just highlight your text. Go over to text to columns. And then now you can see my last name is missing. I can go to my next because we default on delimited. And I can see here that I now have my last and first name. But what you're going to see, the comma has gone away, but that space is still there. When this column comes through, we're going to have a space at the beginning of their name, and we don't want that. So now I can come in here and do space, and it's going to take that space out that would have been comma space first name. So it's really just understanding where that comes in and how to use those, and use your visual tools down here to show you what it's going to look like. I want this treat consecutive eliminators as one. So if somebody accidentally did last name, comma, first name, it's going to know that the comma is just a comma. Okay. And then from here, I go to next. And then this is where this is that whole destination thing again, where that pesky little arrow comes up and sometimes we get confused. This is just a cell reference. That's all that is. And it's saying, look, this is how this is going to look. The last name's going to live here and the first name's going to live here. And I'm cool with that because that's how I had it set up. But if I wanted to really pick my columns, all I have to do is my arrow again. Remember, the arrow just takes you to your sheet. And I'm going to say, I want it to go there. And then I want the second half to live here. When I go and open this up, and then I got to drag it down, right? I drag this all the way down. When I come back here, it now just basically did the same thing for me. I hit finish. It told me that I already had data here. Did I want to replace it? Let me show you that again. Sorry. And it's something for you to think about. If you want to keep your last name, comma, first name, then you would want to build out another column so that you could put your last name, first name, and keep this combo name. I didn't want to keep my combo name. I just wanted it to divide out because that was the only way I needed to see it. So when I went through that, if, go ahead and do this again so you see my error. It's an error, it's a message. So what this is saying right now, I want this to divide out. When I hit finish this message right here, what this is saying is, hey, look, you told me to put the last name here and put the first name here, but you already got stuff here in this last name column. I'm going to replace it. You want me to do that. And again, if you want this data to also be here, I would hit no and then build yourself another blank column so that you can do that. And I'll show you that one as well. But for this case, I'm going to say yes, just override it because I don't want full names in one cell. And now you have your names divided out. Let me show you some other with the same text to column, but we're going to play with different characters. And then I'm going to show you how to keep it keep it the way that it is, but just have other divided out into other columns. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and play in the column N with my enrollment start and end dates. And for me right now, I want to see this as a range, but I also want to see just my enrollment start dates in one column and I want my end dates in one column. So I know that I need to build out two columns. So I'm just going to right click insert. I'm going to go to my data. I have to highlight it because it needs to know what I'm talking about. I'm going to go to my text to column and I'm going to stay here because I have tabs and other like a dash that is part of my separator. When I go to next, this is what it looks like now. That's what I've selected. When I go to next, this time I don't have any commas. I'm going to take that off. I do have spaces, but I don't want to worry about spaces. See how my data is changing down here in my preview. What I really want to work with and divide, what I want to use as my divider this time is this little dash. And so I don't have dash as an option up here. I have to go to my other and tell it. So I just put a dash in. Immediately, you're going to see this is breaking this out into 2 columns. This is right where we were. When I take this dash out, it still has it in 1 column because it doesn't know what I need to break out. Put my dash back in. When I go to next, we're going to go ahead and see that this is going to keep the date, the enrollment start date is going to stay here, and the enrollment end date will move here. If I want to control that, I use this, and I say these 2 columns. Okay. I click open up my wizard again by clicking that button, and now I can go in and finish. I can come up here and name these columns. These are my start dates. Oops, with the correct spelling, of course. And these are my end dates. Okay. One last thing that you can do with that, I will do here with the year-end fees. I already have some columns here, but I'm going to go ahead and have this be cost and this be item. Now what you see here is I have some different things. Some have a dash, some don't have a dash, some have dollar signs, some don't. But I know that we need to break some things out. So step 1 is to highlight your data. We're going to go back to text column and we get to work. All right, so we're going to go next. This time I'm going to take this off so I can just see a clean slate. And I'm just going to start looking at like what does separate my data, right? And I look through here and it's not always a dash this time. Sometimes it's a dash, but sometimes it's not. I'm going to go ahead and use my dash, but this time I'm also going to use a space. So anywhere where there is a space, I need the system to go and put that in its own column. See how it did that for me? All right. When we go next, again, I like to be in control. So I'm going to tell it where I want it to go. And then I'm just going to open up my wizard again and finish the product. Okay. So one last quick thing with looking at this data now. So I went ahead and divided this out for me. But what we notice here in column R is that I don't have consistency. They're not all listed as currency. And if I want to go and do some adding later, I want to make sure that I'm playing in the same format. So in order to get these all consistent, now that I've divided them out, I highlight R. I'm going to go back over to my home tab. And when you're under this number section, do your drop down and select currency. That's going to go ahead and make everything a dollar value so that if I wanted, well, you'll see on the next one, we're going to go to quick analysis, but this will allow you to work with dollars and not just numbers mixed with dollars. Okay, that is text to column. Oh, one other thing I wanted to show you on text column, sorry. Nope, I lied. That was it for text to columns. Guess what? You're getting a survey or a poll. It's not a survey, it's a poll. Here it comes, text to columns, launching. Thank you for your feedback. All right, while you all are taking that, we're going to our last tab. Quickly, I'm going to do a couple of quick analysis for you. I will give you my most, my favorites. Let's come on over here to okay. When we are here, let's say I've seen this a lot. So in my spreadsheet here on this page, we see that I have some blank lines. For whatever reason, right? We don't know, it doesn't always make sense how our spreadsheets come over. But what I do know is that I need a student count. And I can do some quick analysis with that. A lot of times I see people add a row and then they'll do something like put a number one, I'm sorry, they'll put a number one after each name and then come down here and do a equal sums total, right? They want the total of all the ones. There's an easier way to get a count. So if I needed to know how many students were on here, and again, this could be a really long list, and you don't have time to filter through and count lines and take out blanks, all we have to do, again, is highlight our data. And once you do that and let go of your left click, you're going to get this little icon down here. This is your quick analysis toolbar, if you will. And then when we come over here to totals and you do count, what I want to show you, I'm on line 27, which would tell me that there are 26 lines ahead of me. But this knows to only count where there's data. Now, I did not highlight my student, my row one, because I didn't want it to count that. So you just highlight what you have, use your quick analysis, totals to get a count. Okay, that's one. Really quick one I like to show you. Another one is averages. And again, the system is smart enough to know where the blanks are. So once again, when you highlight your data and let go of your left click, you're going to get your little quick analysis down here. And it has options across here. This time, I'm going to stay on totals. And I'm going to go over average. And it's going to tell me that the average age of all of these people is 11.05. Okay. Another average that you could use would be with your financial numbers, obviously, is a good place to use average. You can also use, I'm going to go over to the enrollment year. Go ahead and highlight my data to get my quick analysis tool here. And this time, I'm going to stay on the formatting, and I'm going to go, and this is really just going through and playing with these. Each one of these tabs has a different set of icons that different actions that you can take. Please know that the Sparklines, if you are not familiar with those, are just mini charts. So charts are more robust. Sparklines are just going to give you like a mini chart. But I'm going to stay under formatting for this one. And I want to go to the equal to. And then I can come in here, and again, depending on what type of quick analysis tool you're using, you could get more data. And in here, I could say, look, and again, I like to control where my things are. So I'm going to go ahead and down here and say, I want to know people that are coming next year. So I'm just going to say, just show me the 22, 23. Now I could do that either by selecting the cell, and you can see it came up here and just reference the cell reference, or I could have typed 22-23. Either way works. And then you're going to go ahead and tell it, what do I want it to do? And I'm going to go to my custom formats because I want this to just be filled in yellow. I want it to be really obvious to me. I'm looking for my people that are my students that are going to be coming back next year. Click OK and OK. And you gotta love it when it doesn't work. I am on quick analysis. Perfect. Let's do that again. Formatting equals to, this is why I like to just go ahead and select my own cells, and I'm going to say cell, so there is no confusion. Custom format, give me the yellow, click OK, and OK. And now I can quickly see which of my students are coming back next year. So if this is a really, really long, this is the last thing I'm going to tell you before I let you go. If this is a really, really big sheet and you're like, well, gosh, Deb, that was great, but now I got to scroll through and look for all the highlighted names. So how friendly is it really? Please know there are ways. There are ways. All right, here we go. Quickly, when you are up at your sort and filter and you go to custom sort, my data has a header, so I'm going to keep that highlighted. And when I say sort by column K, which is enrollment year, and then I come over here to cell values, I want to instead say color. And then I'm going to say, what color do I want on top? Yellow, voila. Oh, shoot, I didn't do it for the whole, my bad. Custom sort. I am sorting by enrollment year based on color. And I want those to live on the top. I can then add a level and say name, cell values A to Z. When I click OK, oh, something happened. Oh, well, it's never fun when it doesn't work. Put them on top, please. Do what I say. So it put them on top, but it took away their color, which is what I don't, which is what is bothering me. But it did go ahead and move those to the top, so you know who your 22, 23s are. I'm not sure why the color went away. We're at 5:01, so that's probably a good stop. I am going to pause the recording, and then we will stay on in case any of you have questions.